Welcome to the Smart Money Tribe podcast. I'm your host, Arese. I'm the founder of smartmoneyafrica.org, a financial education platform tailored to the African Millennial woman. But I'm probably best known as the author of two best-selling personal finance books, The Smart Money Woman and The Smart Money Tribe. I love having money conversations that encourage African women to think bigger and become the chief financial officers of their own personal economies. This podcast is a weekly show that will focus on powerful conversations, stories, and practical lessons that teach African millennial women how to make money, keep money, and grow money. So this episode is sponsored by our good friends at OctaFX. OctaFX is a global trading platform with 10 years of experience, more than 6 million trading accounts in 100 countries worldwide. Enjoy the lowest spreads in the industry, buy and sell for the price you see with the fastest execution, and take part in regular promos. Join the community of like-minded entrepreneurs by watching the webinars, reading the market analysis, and mastering a free Forex basic course. Download the app, set up your account, and start trading. Find your bonus for more profitable trading in the link. Hi guys! I hope everyone is feeling the Christmas cheer, even with all this COVID stuff. Good times. So my next guest on the podcast is someone super impressive, young, beautiful, brilliant. The kind of woman I love to see on the podcast. Yanmo Omorogbe. Yanmo is the co-founder and chief operating officer of Bamboo. She leads growth and operations as the COO of Bamboo, a digital investment platform that gives Nigerians real-time access to buy, sell, and hold assets that are traded on the US stock exchanges right from their mobile phones or computers. Yanmo is dedicated to facilitating the continued growth of organizations she has found herself. She's an alumni of chemical engineering from Imperial College London. She was previously the assistant to the Nigerian Minister of Power, Works and Housing. She then returned to the private sector as part of the transaction and asset management teams at African Infrastructure Investment Managers, one of Africa's largest infrastructure private equity fund managers. Yanmo is a CFA Level 3 candidate and is working to even the playing field for access to global investment opportunities for all Africans. And Bamboo is one of my favorite apps. I think it's such a genius idea, and it's a great way to have access to US stocks. And we talk about that in this episode and how she came up with the idea, how they've developed it, and all the amazing things that they've since done. Enjoy. Hi, Yanmo. It's so
Hi,
Arese. To finally have you on the podcast.
Yes, finally.
Scheduling is always the hardest thing when it comes to recording these things, because everyone that you want on the podcast, their schedules are kind of intense. So yay for us for finally making this happen. I like to always start with talking about how I know my guest or how I don't know my guest. So funny story, Yanmo and I actually kind of grew up together because our fathers were friends. So I've known her since she was really young, and I'm super excited for everything that she's doing with Bamboo. It's so impressive. So do you want to start by sort of introducing yourself and talking through your idea for Bamboo and how you started to sort of build the business?
Yeah, thanks for having me, and this should be fun. I like the whole smart money woman thing and, the entire movement, to be honest. So it's fun and it's exciting. And, I'm happy to be here. And I think, our vision for Bamboo, idea for Bamboo, should we say, vision always sounds big. How did we get started? We initially, when I say we, I mean my co-founder and I, we actually built Bamboo for ourselves in the first instance. So we wanted access to the US stock markets and to investing. And there was just no easy way for us to do it from Nigeria. easy and affordable way and super quick. And, my co-founder got started on it, Richmond, he got started on it, started building. And I sort of stumbled into it. I remember the first time hearing him and talk about it. And I remember saying, oh yeah, I'll be really interested in this when you guys build it. I'd love to be one of your users. Let me help you beta test it because I really want to, access the US stock markets. And then lo and behold, here I am co-founding. So yeah, interesting.
That sounds amazing. What is your role at Bamboo? What does your day-to-day sort of look like? How did you decide that this is a career? So you talk to your co-founder, he has this amazing idea, you want to be part of it, but how were you part of it as a job from the get-go, or was it I'll do this on the side and then when it becomes a thing, then I'll take it on full time?
Yeah, so in the first instance, it wasn't even any of those things. It was just, he was working on this, and I was like, oh, I'd love to beta test for you because I also want this product. So whenever, you have products, I'd like to be your first user. And then they're building, and then, he starts working on it, starts doing research, reaches out once in a while, like, oh, this is what we're doing. Getting ideas sort of thing, just bouncing ideas back and forth. And then we just started talking about it more and more. And I think the best way to describe it is just the frequency with which we were talking about the project. And one day we were just kind of a joke that all this one that you're always talking, won't you come and work with me? And I was like, no, because I have a real job. And
So what were you doing? What was your real job at the time?
So at the time I was working at a private equity company. That was infrastructure private equity. Yeah, so I had a real job. I wasn't thinking at the time about leaving my job to work in a Fintech startup in Nigeria. So I was just no, I have a real job. And we just continued talking about it, and just spending lots of time. And then one day he was just we had already spent a lot of time working on it, talking about it, other members of the team. And it just sounded more and more and more interesting. And one day he was like, oh, but seriously, would you be my co-founder? And I was like, okay, give me a bit to think about it. And I kind of did very, very, I say a bit, but I'm relatively impulsive. I sort of do stuff. And I sort of decided I decided within 2 weeks. So between yes and quitting my job took me about 2 weeks to decide.
Wow. You must have really believed in it. How would you describe Bamboo and what you're building to someone who has never heard of it?
In one line, we're building an investment platform for Africa. So we want to give Africans access to real returns and access to ways to grow their wealth. It's just the easiest way to put it. So we started with access to US stock market, but the aim is to really give Africans everywhere access to different investment options that allow them build wealth in any way they want to.
So right now, are you focused primarily on stocks, or are there other investment opportunities that you offer your clients on Bamboo?
So right now, we're an online investment platform that allows you buy US stocks and ETFs from any of your phone or personal device. So we're just focused on US stocks, but we do want to add on other asset classes, add on other stock markets. And what we do ask, especially from our users, is to please send us an email at support@investbamboo.com if there's any, if there's any stocks you want, if there's any new asset classes you want, any new markets you want, because our entire roadmap is going to be based on user feedback and user requests.
Fantastic. So I can imagine that building something like this in Africa, specifically in Nigeria, would be, challenging to build out and to put on the market. So what would you say have been your biggest challenges, and have you overcome them?
So in the first instance, I guess we're building an investment platform, building a fintech business. When we first launched, our biggest challenge was around trust. Nigeria is a low trust society, and it was how do you get people to trust you, to give you their money, to invest on your platform and trust they're not going to run away with their money. So we've had to do a lot. We had to do different things like me being an easily, I don't know if accessible is the right word, but just me being a human face of the brand, for example, seems to have really helped. Setting our customer support seems to have actual faces, and trying to just give good customer support, which helps build trust. And then almost immediately after we launched, coronavirus hit. So now we're a totally fully remote company. It just made sense with our company culture. But, that was quite challenging, managing the business through coronavirus, moving the team fully remote, dealing with the effects of the pandemic, and, getting and continuing to grow through a pandemic and all of that. And then finally with Nigeria is just Nigeria factor. So uncertainty, regulation, managing that risk in and of itself. And the big risk with regulation in Nigeria is that it's uncertain. You don't really know what's going to happen, or when and where the landscape is going to change. So what we've tried to do there is just keep abreast of regulation, keep regulators informed of what we're doing, try and stay aware of what's going on, and in general just trying to be very, very flexible and good with communications when things do happen.
That sounds amazing. So with Bamboo, right, I can imagine that the investor sentiment during COVID must have helped to grow your business, because I find that most people were thinking, yes, there's a pandemic, but they had more time to sort of think about how they wanted to grow their income in spite of, the pandemic, and how they wanted to start sort of like investing their disposable capital. So did you find that you had a lot of customer growth, a lot of people wanting to take advantage of the opportunity of low prices when COVID hit?
Yes, so essentially, I think across the world and just generally, there were, record highs in terms of engagement and participation in the markets, particularly the US stock market. For us as well, we found a lot of interest in markets. It was a good time for our business. One of those, perfect storm kind of moments. And so there was definitely a lot of participation. And what we tried to do at the time was harness it to give people the tools that they needed to invest, help with the education bit, help with letting people know what stocks were good, what was going on. And, like always, bull markets are fantastic because people are making money. And when people are making money, they're happy and more willing and wanting to, participate.
So the Nigerian economy, super volatile, unstable naira, inflation is at almost 20%. So one of the biggest, questions I get asked all the time is, how can I invest in a way that sort of like beats inflation, beats foreign exchange, fluctuations and all of that? Where are the investment opportunities? So I would imagine that you have a solution to that problem. So where are the investment opportunities?
So on Bamboo, what we've tried to do is give people access. We've given people access to the US stock market, and what that allows you to do is immediately, at least devaluation protect, because as soon as you deposit on Bamboo, your money is converted to dollars, so you don't have to worry about devaluation. Because even if you withdraw to naira, we give you back the naira at the prevailing market exchange rate. And if you're investing in dollars, then in US markets, we've seen that their returns tend to beat inflation, and there's a large range of things for you to invest from super volatile stocks to more stable stocks to ETFs that are very, very, very stable across the board. But I think, and that's on Bamboo. But I think generally for people who are looking to invest, not everyone is looking to invest in dollars. Some people might be looking to invest in naira. And I always say that the most important thing for people wanting to invest is knowing what your return objectives are. If your return objectives are mainly to just keep your money sitting there, and you're not really, you're not bothered about you literally want to put 100,000 naira at the end of the start of the year and still have the 100,000 naira at the end of the year, then, just keeping your money in some sort of money market fund or something is fine for you, even though the returns are below inflation. But if, you want above inflation returns, it's important to actually be aware of what inflation is, because I find that a lot of people aren't even, don't try to keep up to date. It's probably because it's so terrible. It's so terrible of what inflation is. But, you want to be looking for things that give you, even if it's backward looking, above 12% Naira returns. And I use 12% just because that's what inflation was last year. And they said we should be hopeful for this year. We should hopeful for this year. I'd ignore the 18%. But I think, you want things that give you above 12, above 18% Naira returns, if that's what you're doing. Otherwise, I sometimes just converting your money to dollars and investing it in dollar mutual funds, money market funds, also a good idea. I mean, they're a broad range of things, but I think the best thing just understanding your risk, your risk and return characteristics. Because if you're also not interested in taking big risks, then you can put all your money in Bitcoin. You will sell when there's volatility, and then you lose all your money as well.
So it's I think understanding an asset class that Bamboo is trading in at the moment.
Unfortunately not, due to, something we're going to add, but due to the current, ban restriction, I don't know what the right word for what they did is, but yeah, unfortunately not, we can't have crypto on the platform.
Okay, so let's talk about Bamboo's strategy for mitigating risk and investor fears a little bit. We live in an environment where, like you said, is very low trust. People have been burnt a few times, don't want to put their money in the stock market even. So I can imagine that as exciting as investing in foreign stocks, sound, there's still some resistance, right? Because people are like, okay, what if you run away with my money? How do I make sure that this is like a legitimate thing that I'm putting money in? And what if something happens? What do I do, right? So what is your strategy for sort of like mitigating, those risks and, managing the investor fears?
Okay, so, like I said, it's always two-pronged. There's one where I'm like, we have good customer service, we have great investors, we're a great company, and, you should trust us because we're building a strong brand. We've had people show up at our office to just make sure that, you actually exist, that like, you're a real company. And that's on one end. And, on that end also, we're doing a lot around just education, helping people understand how to invest, knowing how to invest, and all of that. But then on the other end, I understand that trust takes time to build, and, it'll take users and customers a while before they trust us, because all sorts have happened. And so on Bamboo, we also have insurance protection. All Bamboo accounts are insured up to $500,000. So if anything happens to Bamboo, if anything happens to our broker, if your assets go missing, all accounts are insured up to $500,000 with the US SIPC. So it has nothing to do with Bamboo, it has nothing to do with Nigeria. It's a US body called the SIPC, and they insure your money up to $500,000 in the event that anything happens to your broker and your assets go missing.
Amazing. So generally, how do you see the fintech space in Africa evolving in the next 5 to 10 years? I'm personally, super excited about, the new developments. You hear all the raises from people like Flutterwave, Paystack, and it just sounds like they're met new opportunities now for young people to actually have ideas that can scale to big numbers, right? And there are more and more fintech companies, springing up, seeing these opportunities. So on one hand, I'm excited because I feel like there are lots of people solving these problems that we have in financial services. But on the other hand, there's also the fear that every single someone can just wake up and decide that they're going to start a fintech company and, put it on social media and gain traction without having any real, say, financial experience or financial backing, right? So, or how do you think the landscape is going to evolve in the next sort of 5 to 10 years?
So I think, like you said, a lot of very exciting things have already been happening. Companies like Paystack and Flutterwave sort of build the infrastructure that allows a lot of other companies exist. And, in the next 5 to 10 years, I see more of those things happening. I think, more companies are going to, of course, we know that a lot more fintech companies are going to pop up trying to solve different problems. I don't know that I necessarily think it's bad that, different companies pop up and, some work. I mean, because at the end of the day, it happens everywhere. Silicon Valley, all over the world. Companies pop up, companies fail, companies, start. And I think it's always a good sign. It shows that there's innovation. At the very least, companies failing become a lesson for what not to do, how to do better next time. And I think that's always good. I think that's always good. I think there's still the industry is still very, 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 very young. And I think there's still a lot of room even to optimize the stuff that we do have. There's been lots of payments, but I'm excited to see what happens in general in the investing phase. I'm super excited to see what solutions we can come up with in the insurance, space generally, because I don't know that there's that much going on. I'm not very aware of what's going on there. And I think there's definitely a lot of room for growth there. I think particularly even in investing, just various ways that we can get everybody investing. There's, we say there's 200 million Nigerians and, how do we get as many of them to be able to grow their wealth as possible? There's still a lot to be done, even in current verticals. So I'm actually very, very excited. I think one thing, though, that I hope happens in the next 5 to 10 years is, I guess, more clarity on regulation, because I think that's what helps solve the problem the problem that you raised. But, and it doesn't necessarily have to be government regulation. I think it'll be great if we see more self-regulated bodies popping up that sort of sets the standards for the industry, right? So maybe people think, okay, the government is slower to act or doesn't fully understand tech or fully understand the industry. It'll be, interesting to see more self-regulated bodies, people that you think actually do understand tech, actually do understand your industry, pop up and sort of set the out of bounds, what out of bounds looks like, and set some sorts of guidelines that make it easier for people to join the industry and make investors feel safer. So that is something that'll be quite interesting to see how it materializes over the next. And obviously I think more partnerships will have to pop up, right? A lot of fintechs now already building on top of Paystack and, a lot of building on top of Paystack and Flutterwave, and just seeing more infrastructure plays that allows build on top of other things, allows partner in different ways, aggregate users in different ways. So yeah, it'll be very interesting.
It's amazing because I think that regulation, like you said, is extremely important. But I do worry about the approach of the Nigerian regulators, like in this regard, because we tend to shut down things that we don't fully understand, as opposed to having a collaborative approach to say, okay, let's talk to the people in this space and figure out how we can create policies that protect investors, but also allow ideas like this that solve problems thrive. But I do think, regulation is important because, like, in the banking sector, many, many years ago, you saw when CBN said, recapitalize the banks. And they all had to come up with, I think it was 25 billion for them to be a commercial bank. And at the time, I felt like it seemed punitive and harsh, but I felt like it led to stronger institutions. So it'll be interesting to see how, the fintech space sort of collaborates with regulators to come up with policies that protect investors, but also allow for long-term growth of these fintechs. In terms of fundraising, what was your experience in terms of like raising capital for Bamboo?
We raised a family and friends round just before we launched. And then we went to Y Combinator in January 2020 for 3 months. And then we raised a seed round after that. So we had a unique fundraising experience. I don't know how much there is to learn from, because we had to fundraise during COVID. So we were fundraising through a pandemic. So it was very weird. All our meetings were on Zoom. Investors were nervous. It took us longer to close than it should have, just because a lot of investors were at the beginning saying, look, we're interested, but we need to see what happens in the next couple of months, whether we actually have capital to allocate, what are, everyone's capital allocations were up in the air. So it was interesting times. Thankfully, we were able to get it done, able to close, but it was, I guess, interesting, should we say, and very, very, very different from what we had, mainly because of the pandemic.
Okay, so I want to move now to more personal finance questions that pertain to you. During your career progression, have you negotiated promotions and compensation? Because I find that this is an issue that many women have, where even when you're an entrepreneur and you work in an organization and you add value, a lot of women find it difficult to ask for promotion, to ask for raises. And even, when we're running our own businesses, paying ourselves properly can also be a challenge. So what has been your own experience? Like, what have you been able to sort of navigate that?
So for me, I found that feeling like I have facts, and this may just be a personal decision-making process, feeling like I have facts always makes me more comfortable when doing things that I wouldn't necessarily be comfortable with. So when I've had to ask for a promotion, ask for a raise, the first thing I did was check what the job requirements for the role I was asking to be promoted to, and just sitting and looking at the job requirements and just looking through all the stuff I'd done in the past couple of months that proved that I was operating at this level. Right, so that I wasn't asking for a promotion and I'm going to get there because I have potential to do this. I was asking for a promotion, saying I'm currently working at this level and I deserve the promotion for this region. And then with regards to increase in salary, it's then doing, I just did a bit of research, asked around what people at this level were earning. And, once it was clear to me, at least I was earning below that, then I felt more confident putting forward an argument for A, why I deserve this promotion, and B, why I needed a raise to this. And it made me feel more confident because it was backed by facts. Also, I think, and I get nervous when I'm speaking, when I'm uncomfortable. So I just wrote everything down. It was like a really, really long email. It was just a really long email that I asked to schedule. And, obviously I recognize that it's privileged. I was like in a workplace where I was comfortable to do this. But so I just sent my boss a long email and asked to please schedule a meeting. And we did that and it was fine. Obviously, I recognize that not everyone works in working environments where you can send your boss a long email, asking why you need a raise. But I think, if you're comfortable, then ask if you could please schedule a meeting and say, can you just talk for about 15 minutes? And, if you can, have already written everything down so you have all your facts on a piece of paper and you feel confident when they ask that you're putting forward. Something else someone has said to me was around it's always good to have someone in your corner. So if there's someone ahead of you, maybe your direct boss or someone in HR or just a senior level person, yes, that can speak for you or that you can speak to when you don't feel comfortable or confident, that's also quite helpful. But, for women, I always say ask, because men are always asking, even when they don't deserve it, even when they know. So just channel. Yeah, channel the audacity.
I love it. But what I love the most is also aside from looking for the information so that you have an arsenal to make your case. I love that you look at your strengths and your weaknesses and you think, okay, how can I deliver this message in the best possible way? I don't like to, talk when I'm nervous. So let me put it down in an email. I think that's really smart, or that was really smart of you. But did you encounter any sort of like resistance? Were there times that when you did that, you encountered some resistance with regards to getting a raise or a promotion?
So I think sometimes the timing doesn't work. It's the only one that I've gotten. So I think what makes it easier in like the way I've, in these situations I've had to experience, and I recognize that I've been lucky, is where my boss that I was speaking to immediately understood my point. So I haven't had a situation where I've said, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and they've been like, no, you're not. And I think it also just helps to have the facts as opposed to making it an emotional, I feel like a raise discussion. So the pushback I've gotten was, now isn't the right time, but I recognize it, and let's talk about this in a few months. In a few months down the line, and then you sort of have some clarity. But I think where possible, if the discussion is able to be based around, very, very clear facts, then it makes things easier for promotions. I think the best piece of advice I've gotten was whatever you want to be promoted to, either ask a member of HR or ask your boss for what the job description is for the new role you want to be promoted to. And where possible, just try and list as many
of the skills you have.
As many that you have, and even things you've already accomplished that put you at this level, so that there's not much of a debate around whether you're operating at this level. And then it sort of, and then immediately then also puts the ball in the other person's court, because they're the ones who now have the burden of proving that you're wrong, as opposed to entering a discussion where you're flailing around, you're nervous. And at least for me, when I'm nervous and I start talking, I just start saying rubbish.
I love it. So what did you do with your first paycheck? Like your very first paycheck?
What did I do with my first ever? I'm assuming you mean not NYSC, right?
All of the above, whatever your first paycheck was.
Yeah, my first ever paycheck, like a real paycheck, was when I was doing interning in London. And what did I? And then I didn't do anything serious with it. It was one of those like sad money stories where I thought I was going to save money.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to buy it. So I didn't buy anything expensive. Like I should have been. So I didn't buy anything expensive, and I just put it in my quote and unquote savings. And then in like 3 months, it was just gone. And I realized I spent it on like Uber and food. And I should have just gone to buy a bag. At least I'll still have the bag now.
I took show for it. Fair enough. How did you make your first 1 million naira? Like, can you share some steps, some practical steps? So there are people listening to this podcast who haven't started a business yet, haven't made 100,000 naira yet, but a million is a lot for them. So how do you start? How did you make your first million, and how did you do it?
But I'm definitely lucky, because I'm probably one of the few people, at least in Nigeria context, who I made my first millionaire at work. It was a paycheck, and it was just yes. And and back then it was more money. It's sad today. Millionaire is $2,000.
I know.
So yeah. For practical steps on how to make a million naira, if you're doing it career, working a job, then I think it's just knowing at which stage in your at which point in whatever career you're at, that the paycheck or bonus or whatever it is hits the goal. If your goal is a million naira, making sure you're working towards that and you're very, very focused on working towards that. So, if you're in a career that needs professional qualifications for you to progress, then make sure you're working as hard as possible to get your professional qualifications early as well, because the longer you work, the harder it is to go back and do exams.
Yeah.
And I think if you're doing, business or you're an entrepreneur, then I always say that if you're an entrepreneur, then it's deciding how much of your company's profits you want to pay yourself, or deciding how much salary. I mean, not just salary. I think as an entrepreneur, because remember something you mentioned earlier, that it's hard for entrepreneurs to decide to pay themselves well sometimes. And I think, again, for me, I try to keep things as facts and keep things as objective as possible. So making some sort of decision around what percentage of company profits you want to pay yourself. So then you don't feel like you have to always pay yourself peanuts. You always know, okay, as we're doing better, me too, I should be earning a little better. And also you don't overdo, because if you're not making money, you don't make money. So just decide what percentage of company profits you want to pay yourself, and then know to pay yourself a millionaire at one point, you need to be making, maybe it's 10, maybe it's 100, what's a millionaire, whatever your internal goal is. And again, just work towards hitting that goal for your company, because that'll immediately come to revenue for you.
What would you recommend in terms of a percentage of profits that founders should pay themselves in their businesses?
So again, I think it depends on what kind of business you do. The rule of thumb, the advice someone gave me that I've sort of stuck with is that when you're a founder, at least, and it was a tech, someone in tech talking, the thing was the question I was asked was, how much do you need to, maintain your standard of living where you're not constantly worried about losing money, about not having any money, but you're also don't have enough to save any money either. So essentially, and that was the question, obviously you're not going to be going to sip every weekend buying $2 million and $2 million naira tables, but you're also not going to be worried that you're not going to eat at the end of the month, and what's not growing is your bank account. What's not growing is your savings account balance. So that sort of worked for me, but I also recognize that tech is a bit different because you're focused on larger upsides, big outcomes. I think if you're running a business in Nigeria where you're living off of that, where you're living off of that business, it really depends. I've heard people say anything from 30%, 20%, 10%. So I think it definitely depends on your own standard of on your initial standard of living and what you think you guys can afford.
I always like to ask people the perspectives on this, because I think for entrepreneurs, especially in this part of the world, the difficulty is always balancing what you think will be enough with what the business can support. So trying to find that fine line with whether you have a revenue model that supports paying you a salary that's enough to sustain your lifestyle. But let's talk about investments. Or did you want to say something else?
No, I was just thinking, I think the only thing I always say about that is, if you're overpaying yourself, especially when you're the owner of the business, it always comes back in the end, right? If you're overpaying yourself, when the business runs out of money, you just will now start having stories of how you didn't pay yourself for 2 years because your business. So I always think that there's no point. I get really, really stressed. So I think it'll lead directly into the investment talk, is that I get really, really stressed about money. So I feel a lot more comfortable knowing I was earning and able to consistently earn, let's say, 200,000 naira every month consistently, than start paying myself 800,000 naira today for 6 months, and then I'm not sure whether in 6 months I'll be paying myself anything. So I think I'm more comfortable with smaller and steady than the possibility of nothing for a long period of time. But for me, everything is about knowing yourself. If you're comfortable with uncertainty and all of that, then of course, more power to you. And I think that's my general thing also with investing. And I don't like stress.
What is your personal investment strategy? So how do you decide what you want to invest in and how you're going to invest?
So generally my investment strategy is what I was just talking about. I don't like stress. I don't like anything that gives me anxiety and keeps me up at night. I'm not the person who's going to be refreshing my investment app every hour on the hour to check whether I have money or not. So when I get my salary, I try and save or invest at least half of it, at least half of it. And so for the portion I'm investing, half of it is I'm investing to keep the money. So it's usually for something like, so this whole year I've been investing slash saving because I want to go on holiday in the summer, and I want to have a nice holiday, and I need to invest. I need to gather money together, should we say, to be able to afford my holiday. So 25% of my salary goes into stuff like that, investing, into what I call frivolous expenses. So if I want to buy a new bag, I want to buy new shoes, it'll be from that 25%. And then the other 25% goes into longer term stuff that I forget about, quote unquote. And this is obviously sometimes I do really badly, and there are months and there are sometimes where nothing goes into this 25%. But and then that's where I invest in longer term stuff, things I don't want to think about, and I generally don't sell. So it's just an adding account, and I'm actually really, really bad at selling assets, to be honest.
Which is probably a good thing when you're young, because it gives you longer time to sort of benefit from capital appreciation if you've invested in the right things. So what kind of asset classes do you like?
So stable, right now I do US stocks. I have a bit of money in some crypto assets, but also stuff I've like left and forgotten about, and fingers crossed, everything. And then I do stocks, and that's essentially it. That's actually it. I used to, when a few years ago I bought land in Nigeria. That was such a mistake. It was so sad. I should have bought back with that money.
Tell me about that.
But yeah, I mean, nothing happened. I just bought land, and it was just, I mean, at the time, it's just in hindsight, right? Dollar was like 360, I think, or probably even a little less than 360 when I bought it. And now I'm probably going to, again, because I'm bad at selling assets, I've just not sold it, so it's just sitting there. But I probably should sell it, and hopefully I can make my exact amount of money in dollars back. But considering that I bought,
doesn't it depend on the area you bought it? Is it the sort of thing that in 5 or 10 years, like, it will appreciate in value because it's a growth area? Or do you feel like the area you bought it in is now sort of like saturated and there's not that much room for growth?
So my issue with the whole growth, when you buy in growth areas, is that no matter how well your Naira investments are doing, they're always fighting devaluation, right? So if you buy when dollar is at 360, today dollar is at 510 or something, around 500, and we don't know what dollar is going to be in 5 or 10 years. So for me, when I invest, I want to make money at least in dollars. So if my if it goes from 10 million naira to 20 million naira, yeah, it's doubled in naira, but there's a chance I might just end up with the same amount of dollars after all those years, right? So that's my problem.
Fair enough. I guess
so I'm sure it'll appreciate in naira.
Yeah.
But it's already appreciated in naira, but it's just one of those things.
Yeah, and I guess so a few things. One, there's a chance that it can appreciate so much that it won't matter, the dollar amount, say like in 10 years, if we actually get it together as a country and the naira gets stronger, that there'll be capital appreciation that sort of like exceeds the devaluation of the naira, possibly, depending on like the area. And I guess sometimes there is luck and timing. Buying an asset at the right time, at the right price, and then just waiting. But it's fair enough if you part of your investment strategy, especially given the uncertainty that we have in Nigeria, is just, I make my decision in dollars. Is it going to favor me or is it not going to favor me? So that's a fair enough.
So interestingly, yeah, sorry, go on.
No, I was going to say that's a fair enough sort of investment strategy where you decide, listen, I make my money in a very volatile environment where we don't know what the value of Naira will be tomorrow. So I'd rather make all my investment decisions with dollar in mind, with the dollar in mind, there's a fair enough investment strategy. But I think there's also a case to be made for diversifying your portfolio, because we also don't know, what will happen in 5 to 10 years with regards to foreign exchange fluctuations, or how the Nigerian economy improves or doesn't improve. So I feel like there's something to be said for diversifying your investments regardless.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree. So like for me, exactly, because I don't sell stuff, I end up diversifying by default. So like even at my land, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have bought it, but I'm probably never going to sell it just unless I desperately need the money. And I think also with regards to timing, interestingly, that's actually something I believe in. It's just that things have been volatile for a while. But so between when post devaluation in I think 2016, 2017, 2015, 2016, post devaluation, I did do a lot of Naira stuff, because what you find is that because our FX rate is usually stable for a couple of years, right? In that period where exchange rates are stable, Naira investments are fantastic, because I mean, even fixed income is like 15% Naira, and that's the same thing as 15% dollar, because the FX rate is stable. So I do agree with your points around timing, especially if you can time it between devaluations, and then it's like gold, right? Which is quite interesting as well.
So far, what would you say has been your most profitable investment?
My most profitable investment is Shopify or Zoom. Let me see where both are today. Because I bought Zoom, and I mean, it's definitely Zoom in like total, because I bought Zoom just after I IPO'd, and I sold it in the middle of the pandemic. So definitely Zoom ever. And it was like 300% or something.
I love it. So given...
Yeah, exciting.
That's amazing.
Well, it was luck.
Well, yeah, there's always luck that comes into play with any sort of endeavor, I guess. But then I guess it was also being smart enough to realize that during a pandemic or any kind of uncertain times, it also presents another kind of opportunity, which is assets become relatively cheaper to buy. So you can buy things on cheap and, sell them when things get back to normal. And then Zoom was also experiencing a lot of growth because of the pandemic. So I feel like that was really clever.
No, that's why I'm saying it was lucky, because I bought it before the pandemic. So I bought it just when it IPO'd, like just a little bit after I IPO'd. So there was nothing like coronavirus. We had no clue. So I just saw something. And so it was when I was just trying to learn about investing. I saw something about, if you like a company, people probably will too. And I was like, oh, I really like Zoom. I really like this whole video conferencing thing. And I was like, oh, let's try it. And I mean, a lot of the reason I bought it was someone was saying it was going to be very volatile, they might drop, or this could be fun. I was like, oh, okay, this could be fun. And so it was pure luck, I'm not going to lie. Yeah.
Would you say, what would you say your biggest money mistake or failure has been?
My biggest money mistake has, I think definitely my biggest money failure has been, I've been waiting for, so it's two things, and they're both in trying to time the market. I've been waiting for Tesla to drop for ages now, and it hasn't. So I should probably have just bought it. Yeah, I should probably have just bought it. That is one. And then also generally and then I feel like I didn't buy enough or invest enough during the pandemic when everything crashed. I feel like I could definitely have invested more when everything crashed. But I was busy, and then wasn't sure if there was going to be another crash. So I was trying to hedge. And I was like, okay, then when everything started rising, I was doing the whole, everything will crash again. And it hasn't till now. So
the market is all funny one. But those sound like very good problems to have still.
Yeah, I haven't had any of the bad, like investing in something and someone ran away with all my money. But again, it's because I'm very paranoid about money. So even when I don't want to make 500% in one week or this thing. That sounds like stress to me too.
I know, because you said that sounds like stress to me, because I think that a lot of people get into trouble when they are looking for quick returns, like exorbitant returns in a short period of time.
Yeah.
When they tend to fall for scams. But
yeah, that is what happened.
So building this business, right, in this climate, and trying to become a successful entrepreneur, what skills do you think that you've had to build to be successful or to get to this stage? What have been the most important skills?
I think the most important skill is switching off, honestly. Is being able to switch off. Even if it's for an hour, even if it's for 15 minutes, it's just being able to just like take a step back and be like, yeah, I can't kill myself. Because otherwise you will lose your mind and there's a lot of yo-yoing. So even on like days where you think, like, oh my God, this is amazing, very quickly something happens and you're like, I celebrated too soon. And your emotions, your mental health goes all over the place. I think the most important skill is actually just being able to take a deep breath, and it allows you think clearer. It allows you just put life into perspective. It allows you just honestly just calm down. And for me, it's been super, super important. And then after that, it's just being able to be flexible. I think, especially if you're doing like startups, you're doing tech, if whatever you're doing, being an entrepreneur, being able to be flexible, because as human beings, I think we have a tendency to make plans, to set, very, very stringent goals of, okay, I'm going to have done this by January, I'm going to have done this by February, I'm going to have made X naira and Y naira, and life just, especially in Nigeria, life just throws you curveballs. Things just happen. It can be anything from your internet is not working, something, there's just traffic, there's traffic that makes you miss a meeting, just things just happen, and just being able to be flexible. And I think if coronavirus has taught us that, is that we'll figure it out.
Fair enough. So what was your first childhood memory of money?
My first childhood memory of money is definitely, so we had to, when we were younger, I think it's the reason I also like reading. My mom used to pay us to read books. My parents used to pay us money to read books. So I used to like reading stuff like Jacqueline Wilson and Babysitter's Club and all that sort of stuff. And so when I wanted to buy one of those kind of books, I had to buy a quote unquote classic as well. So some boring Jane Eyre or like a history-ish kind of book. And so we had to finish reading the quote unquote boring book first before we could start reading the fun book. And then we would get paid to write summaries of the boring books. So that was actually my first. So obviously I was now more incentivized to read more of the boring books, so I could like stack my money up and buy. I don't remember what I wanted to buy, probably dumb stuff like stickers or something. But yeah.
Oh, so cool. That is actually so cool. I think that those are the type of things that instill values, like, if you do the work, then, you can get the money. What are I feel like I already know the answer to this, but I will let you know us. When it comes to spending, what are your guilty pleasures?
What are my guilty? When I like buying handbags. They're like my favorite thing in the world. But then I think that's like I think my real guilty pleasure when I actually have money will be traveling.
I was thinking travel, because I'm expecting like a hot girl summer type. I'm expecting to see a hot girl summer type vacation on your Insta stories this summer.
I mean, definitely, but like, I don't feel like the traveling I do now counts as a guilty pleasure. So when I have money, I'll actually like do like, I really just want to do like dumb, like totally luxurious, nice holidays that, you know, like after you finish your thing, you actually feel a little guilty. Yeah. Now the holidays I take don't make me feel guilty as well.
Like, I've worked hard, I deserve to do this. So
yeah.
If you won the lottery and you won $1 million, what would you splurge on? So walk me through the type of holiday that you would plan. If you had $1 million tax-free, what would you splurge on and what would you invest in?
Wait, okay, can I invest some of it? Okay, I can invest. What will I invest in? Right? No, like, am I investing all of it or am I spending all of it?
You're spending some of it and investing some of it. So tell us how much you spend on what and what it looks like. Build this.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So if I go $1 million tax free like today, I actually have a running joke, like a friend of mine, that if I ever got like $1 million tax free and it was in the bank, the first thing I would do would be, it has to be a bank in America or somewhere that is safe, would be to get a really, really nice hotel room just across the road from the bank and withdraw like $500,000 and just spread it on the floor.
Oh my God.
And spread it on the floor in the hotel and just roll around the side. I just roll around the side, you're like, wow, this is actually my money. And then just quickly gather it and take it back to the bank before they steal it.
That would actually be epic. That would be so epic.
I just put it back in the bag before they steal it. But yeah, seriously, I would invest at least half of it. Probably even more. At least half of it, probably even more. What would I invest in? I would invest a good chunk of it in crypto style stuff that I just want to forget about for a couple of years. Then I would buy Amazon stock because I think it's the best company in the world. And I'm not sure yet what I would do with what else I would invest in apart from those two things. I'll definitely just get some investment advice for up to $600K. So let's say I'd invest about $600,000 and then I have $400,000 left to spend. I'll do something like silly. Like I have like a girls group chat with like my friends. I'll definitely just send everybody a message like, please, everybody should get visas. We're going on holiday from X dates to X dates to X dates, and just have like a really, really fun hot girl summer girls trip that I think would be really, really fun. And then I would go on a family holiday with my family to Tokyo because I have nieces, and Tokyo seems like a fun place for like adults and kids. And I'd stay in the Aman in Tokyo because it's really, really, really nice, and just have like a fun, don't think about anything holiday. And then I would just go and like sit in Dior and find my real self.
Thank you so much for your time, for sharing your journey. I'm wishing you luck in all your other endeavors, and I wish Bamboo a lot of success.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Smart Money Tribe podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm super excited about creating financial content for African Millennial women who want to live a fabulous life, but also want to learn how to find the balance between spending on their lifestyle needs and building assets that could protect their financial futures.